So this is actually a tough call because all of these cards are really good. Twilight Drake is great. The way I generally like to play Paladin, though, you don't always end up with a lot of draw power early, and you generally want to have cards on the board if you can. So while you can go and drop like 1/1s and stuff, you're using your hero power, which would allow Drake to come out. Drake ends up not being that good. I'd almost rather have the Yeti. So I love Alder Peacekeeper. I think Mind Control Tech is actually the most game-breaking of these three cards. While Mind Control Tech might not always be able to be used, it's still a 3/3 for 3, and it essentially can beat a lot of Warlocks and a lot of people that are going to flood your board. Because that's probably what you're going to get beat by, is people spamming a lot of cards. So Mind Control Tech is generally pretty solid against people that are going to play 4 or more cards. This card doesn't really help you against priests. This card would. It's kind of a tough call. Alder Peacekeeper generally has more utility, especially if you can get a Kodo or something. But the comeback, like essentially, Alder Peacekeeper can help you win a game, but in general, Mind Control Tech can actually win you the game, or especially if you're losing, can win you the game. If you're already winning, then Alder Peacekeeper doesn't really help you that much. But if you're losing, Mind Control Tech can actually win you the game. So I think I like the RNG of Mind Control Tech versus I know what the utility of Peacekeeper is. So could get flamed for this decision. It could end up working out, but I would say Alder Peacekeeper is usually more useful. However, if they play Venture Co, you can actually go Peacekeeper against Venture Co all day, and that makes it a really solid play. I think I like Mind Control Tech, though. It's a tough call either way. It's basically you're arguing between their battle cries. So if you can basically say, okay, they're the same card, but their battle cry changes an enemy minion's attack to 1, or possibly steal an enemy minion, I think you have to take Mind Control Tech, although 4 more cards isn't always going to be the case, but you kind of have to take what the opponent gives you. Croc's okay. I'd rather have a 3/2, 2-drop. Corehound is pretty bad. Corehound can only really be good in with charge decks, either Warrior with a Warsong Commander, or a charge card, or Hunter decks with the Tundra Rhino or Unleash the Hounds kind of thing. Most of the time this card's pretty poor. Doesn't stay alive to anything, it just dies and then it's done. Venture Co can be really strong, really hard to deal with. And if you end up getting a silence or an owl or something, you can actually silence it yourself and make it pretty strong. So we'll go ahead and pick up Venture Co over a 2/3. So Hunter can be good. Hey, growling? What are you growling at? My dog either burped or growled. I think she burped. She actually doesn't. She's not very aggressive at all. So stat-wise, Yeti is kind of the strongest card here. Panther can be good. I kind of actually like Panther the least. I'm not really a huge fan of Panther. I think Croc is okay. I think Croc is better in Priest decks. Venture Co has insane stats for being a 5-drop. I'm assuming that if I play Venture Co on turn 5, I can play a weapon, I can use a spell, I can basically use something other than a creature that lets this high threat target stay on the board and make them have to deal with it. Hitting for 7 is huge. That's almost a third. It's basically between a fourth and a fifth of their life per hit in one hit. So if you can hit them in the face for 7, it ends up being really strong. But it's basically just a better choice. I'd rather have this as a 5-drop than maybe some of the other 5-drops I'll get later. And on top of that, I bet there are going to be other 2-drops that I'd want more than the Croc. So for your first maybe 10 draws, maybe 15 draws. You can kind of pick and choose what you think is the best card, and then as you kind of get on further, you can kind of fill in your mana curve a little bit if you need to. So I could go Hunter or I could go Yeti. I think Yeti's a better card than Hunter because Yeti doesn't die to as much AoE. And Yeti can kill and trade with most cards on turn 4. There are not very rare any cards that can kill a Yeti that's played on turn 4. Most things have 3 damage, maybe 4 damage, and then you'll still live with 1. Panther's okay. I don't utilize Panther as much as most people. Panther dies to AoE pretty easily. Basically, I know I'm going to have hero power, and hero power is going to die to really any AoE, so you kind of want some high health creatures that are going to live and trade. So Pine-Side Summoner can be really good. Ancient Watcher is pretty terrible. I've seen Ancient Watcher in Constructed where you're going to silence it or something and make it a 4/5 for 2 essentially, but most time this card's really bad. You can turn it into a taunt possibly, but Drake's one of my favorite cards. Plus spell damage, if I can get a Consecrate, that'll have a lot of value, but being a 4/4 and a draw card is really strong. Pine Size isn't as good as it used to be. You could play this on turn 2, then turn 3 you could play like a Yeti or something, but then this is probably going to die and get traded. Can give you some value, but most of the time Drake's going to give you more value. So Hand of Protection can be really strong. Most of the time I'd rather have the Peacekeeper that uses a Divine Shield as a battle cry. 3/3 Taunt is okay. Again, there are probably better 3s I can pick up later. Not a huge fan of this card. It's not a bad card, but it's not really a great card either. Silverback Patriarch is pretty bad. There's not really many uses for it in general. So you get a 3/3 for 3 with Taunt, which can be good. Can kind of stop them if they're going to be hitting you. But I think I'd rather play the aggressive route and pick up Hand of Protection. So can go either way. So I'm not a fan of Worgen Infiltrator. It's okay. Not really a great card. Dies to any AoE. It has to be targeted though, but it's basically only good to sack something into something else. Kings is definitely a late game comeback card. If you can top deck a Kings or something like that, it can definitely keep you alive. I like this card a lot in Constructed. Haven't really decided about it in... Damn it, Helicopter's back again. Haven't really decided about it in... Doggo. Haven't really decided about it in Arena, but given our choices, Wisp is really terrible. Wisp could only be good if you're playing like Rogue and you need combos, or if you're playing Questing Adventure, I guess, and need some combos, you know, to add up. But overall, I'm not a huge fan of the Infiltrator. I'd rather have some solid 2-drops than this 2/1. So we'll go Kings. And that's kind of, so KMXS, is that how you say it, just the letters, KMXS? That's kind of how I feel about Hand of Protection. I used to be like, well, I'll pick up the 3/3 because it's a creature, but having this Hand of Protection in my hand has done incredible things for me in the past. So we're going to kind of see if I start, because I really hadn't valued this very highly, because my thoughts are, if you play Hand of Protection and you don't have a creature on the, or you've got Hand of Protection, you don't have a creature on the board, you can't use it. You can't, it's a worthless, it's a dead card in your hand. Well, sometimes if you can play a Charger, you could actually play a Charger, Divine Shield it, or you could play Argent Commander, kill something off, and then play another Divine Shield on top of it. You know, there's a lot of uses for it that can be really strong. Noble Sacrifice is pretty weak. Noble Sacrifice is really only good early game when you need to kill off, like keep your guy on the board or something possibly. I'm not a huge fan of Paladin Secrets. Redemption's the only one that can be pretty strong. Noble Sacrifice can be strong early game, but unless you're just trying to rush somebody down, it's not that great. Murloc is terrible. Worgen can be really good, especially if you get Kings or something, or attack with it, boost its attack, and then maybe Divine Protection or something, or Hand of Protection. Worgen is one of my favorite cards if you can play it right. I like it better on Mage, but it's still pretty strong all around. I don't like Gurubashi as much on a Paladin. It can be good, but it's also can be a silence target. Shadow Word Pain can be a mind control. There can be a lot of things. So I'm not a huge fan of this card on as a Paladin. Crusader's not bad. We need some 2-drops though. We need to basically have a fairly aggressive start to see if we can control the board and keep the board controlled. So I'd probably pick the Raptor. Actually, and people also really like to pick up the Scarlet Knight or whatever it is, the one that actually steals Divine Shields. So while that's not a, you're not going to not pick a card because of that. Basically, this card's going to trade. This one might trade and live, but depending on who you're playing, they can also ping it and whatnot. So we'll probably pick up the Raptor just to have a 2-drop, some 2 damage. So Eye for an Eye is terrible. Might's, I've gone up a little bit on Might. I used to think Might was pretty poor. Basically, Might and Rockbiter are the same, except for Rockbiter you can use on your own hero, which allows you to hit with your hero. So intrinsically, Rockbiter has more value than Might, but that doesn't really mean Might's worthless. It just means that Might is a removal, because you can cast Might on your 1/1 creature if they leave it up. But you can't pick anything really over True Silver. True Silver is almost an auto pick, probably an auto pick at least until you get 2 of them, maybe 3, depending on what your choices are here. But overall, True Silver is very strong. I'm honestly not a huge fan of Sunwalker. I think it's a good card, but I think people have silences, and this card becomes a 4/5 for 6 cost when they silence it. I'd almost rather have a larger taunt without the Divine Shield, but that could end up being too strong for late game. Seeker Keeper is really bad. Alchemist honestly has a lot of uses. Alchemist can be very valuable if used properly. But I mean, kills a 0/4 or 0/4 makes it 4/0 and it dies. But I couldn't really justify picking that over Sunwalker. Sunwalker can be good. You can't really put all of your cards on Sunwalker because it's not that good. But it's a decent card. Right. I'm just kind of talking about the cards and why they have pros and cons. But you'll still pick kind of the best card. Well, but the thing with Might is that... Hey, what you doing? Hey. The thing with Might is that you can use Might on a Charger. You can use Might to finish someone off. You could use Might on a Wind Fury. Might can end up having a lot of value if you have some other cards paired with it. So, not a huge fan of the Farseer. Personally, I think Worgen is way better than the Farseer. Farseer can be good if you get Kings. Farseer can be good in like a Warlock deck if you've got Power Overwhelming. Can make this just truck somebody, but then it dies off. Can board clear and whatnot. But Cultmaster is a solid card, especially being a Paladin. You've got 1/1 hero power. You can kill off creatures and draw cards. So big fan of that. If we had a Consecrate, I might actually pick up Geomancer. Even with weapons, I really don't care for the Corsair that much. It's okay. At the end of the day, it's just a 3/3, whether it's for 4 or 4. In this case, it'd be free. If you can play Corsair and True Silver on the same turn, that can end up having a lot of value. If we pick up a Kings, we'll basically not need any late game at all. I don't think Kings is that strong of a card, but it can be good against rush decks. Given the choices, though, Corsair's okay, not great. We have 1 weapon so far. We have no guarantee we're going to get any spells for the Geomancer. So I'm again going value for late game. If we're getting screwed, they're rushing us. Kings can really save your ass. If we pick up the Kings, we're going to have to go a whole lot more early game in case we get some Kings, some draw cards. So another weapon, Sword of Justice, is amazing, especially for that early game. If you can get played, play some creatures. Sword of Justice, Worgen is really strong. You have to worry about it playing it early a little bit because of Ooze, but overall, Sword of Justice is a great card in an arena deck and a paladin deck because you can basically make your creatures buffed up. Pirates weak, War Leader's weak. This card can screw you too because they can play Murlocs as well, but Sword of Justice is a very easy pick there. So again, low cards. This card with the Sword of Justice though basically becomes much more valuable because you'd probably rather have a 3/4 than you would a 4/3. Sort of. I mean, in theory, possibly, because then that was to be able to trade and live against other 2s and 3s for the most part. I think though we'll probably take a taunt, another taunt. I think we can pick up some better 2s. I think we're gonna need some. We're kind of heavy on this end already, so I think might need some stopping power. We've got about 15 draws or more left to get some better 2s. So Fin Creeper can be a solid 5. So that ends up being good. Equality can also help if we are basically losing. If you can get a Consecrate, again, Equality Consecrate is one of the most powerful trades in the game. Whether that'll end up working out together, if we can get one or not, is yet to say. Crazy Alchemist is really good. It's just got a lot of utility. I like cards that give you choice. This card you can choose to play it and it can be really valuable or it can be really poor. With Equality, I'm probably going to pick Equality because you basically have to have it. Basically it lets your 1/1 creatures kill off something huge. And Holy Wrath is not a very strong card. We do have a lot of big cards, so Holy Wrath might be valuable, but overall, yeah, I do agree, but Equality is still valuable if you have like little creatures out. So we'll go ahead and pick up Equality, and Equality lets Sword of Justice kill anything. It does a lot of things there. So I like Silverhand Knight. It's a solid 5. However, we're already kind of heavy right here. Flesh-Eating Ghoul can be really strong. We basically get free creatures. So if we get a bunch of free creatures out, and then so you could actually, so this would be ideal again. Drop a bunch of free creatures, play Equality, drop Ghoul, play Consecrate. I mean that's a heavy mana turn. Or play a bunch of little 1/1s, drop Ghoul, and then play Equality and then drop Ghoul and then send your 1/1s in. Overall, these are all really good picks. We already have Adventure Co. We're already pretty heavy on that end, so we'll take the Ghoul because it's got more upside essentially. So that can be really strong. I love Kodo. If we had picked something other than the Equality, I might pick Equality here, possibly. Just depends. But Kodo's really strong, great for killing stuff off. Very strong card. Humility and Kodo actually work out really well together. There wasn't a guarantee I was going to get a Kodo, so the very first card of the game that I picked, I could have picked the, was it not Argent Protector, but Argent, whatever he is, to just change someone's health to 1. Basically, it's a Humility built into the card. That ends up being really strong with Kodo because you can basically kill anything off in the game with that combination. But as itself as a card, it's fairly weak. So definitely we'll take a second weapon. So we've already said we're going to be done with late game. However, Stormwind Champion's amazing, especially if you have a bunch of 1/1 creatures. But if I pick this card, we're going to be, again, really heavy late. We really actually have too many 7s already. Archer's pretty weak. Rifleman's pretty weak. So we'll take probably our last big card, and I've already said that once, our last big card, and then go from there. Defargus. Defender of Argus is awesome. Questing Adventure can be good, but it's only when you play a card, so your hero power doesn't really do anything for you, and we don't have a ton of low drops, so Questing Adventure won't do much for us. Defender of Argus on Yeti, on Worgen, makes it a 4/4. Defender of Argus is hands down one of my favorite cards. Top 5 easily. Defender of Argus is very strong. So again, if we're going this much late game, having a bunch of weapons really benefits us as well, because we might not be able to keep up playing creatures, but we can actually keep up killing creatures off. And Goldstar Footman's very bad. Dollar and Mage, we don't have any spells yet at all that would benefit from that. I'll take a 3rd weapon all day. Especially True Silver Champion, I feel like this is one of the best weapons in the game. Probably second only to like Fiery War Axe. Gorehowl is good, but I think I would take either True Silver Champion or Fiery War Axe as top 2 weapons of any weapons, period. So that's a bold statement, but I think I would do it. So now I'm beginning to wish, I got another Mind Control tech, beginning to wish I would have had a different card here. I could have gotten a Drake, but I'd much rather have the, I gotta remember that name. It's the Paladin card that reduces their health, or reduces their attack to 1. But again, Mind Control tech, like, this card is game breaking. Golem, for being a 3 without the battle cry, a 4/2 is strong. Problem is that your battle cries give your opponent Mana Crystal. So this card can be okay for top decking. However, you would never play it on turn 3. You probably wouldn't even play it like before turn 7 because giving your opponent a Mana Crystal is too brutal and screws you too bad. So Mind Control tech's an easy pick here. Holy Light is a pretty weak spell. I don't know when I would ever use it. Basically, you could say that Guardian of Kings is actually a 5/6 or a 5 cost 5/6 because if you equate Holy Light restoring 6 health being 2 cost, you can essentially subtract the 2 cost from here, making that a 5/6 for 5 without the battle cry, because that would be the battle cry. So that gives Guardian Kings essentially more value if you value this, but Holy Light's so terrible. So Spellbreakers are given. We need a silence. We're gonna have a lot of mid game. But having a silence and a spellbreaker are all really good. Repentance can actually give us some value on like Worgen and stuff. That's true, but in general, if you don't have any creatures that have 6 or more health, it's generally not going to be as valuable either. So I would basically, I mean, it can target a creature, but unless you've got something with like Ysera or something huge health, it's generally not going to be that valuable. So honestly, I could consider Repentance here if there's a chance of keeping one of these cards alive. The problem is that Repentance really isn't that good. So we need some 3s. We really need some 2s. Honestly, I could kind of care less about 3s because we have enough 4s. But we really need some 2s to just not get trucked early game. But Crusader's a decent card. Candidate being pretty strong, so we'll take that. So again, we got a choice: Bloodfin Raptor, a 3/2 versus Hammer and draw power. Currently, the only real draw power we have is the Cult Master. We really don't have any other draw power other than that. So I personally like the removal versus another Raptor. Raptor's not really that strong. It is a 3/2 for 2 though. Yeah, my curve is fairly messed up, but the difference is, as a paladin, I can always summon a creature. So while that does only give me a 1/1, they're generally going to take time to kill it, so that's going to slow the game down a little bit. So I'm going to pick Hammer Wrath. If you want to call me greedy, you can call me greedy, but the rationale is that removal and draw power is very strong. We really have 0 draw power because the Cult Master could be good. We might be behind. If we're behind, we need to kill something off and draw a card. And worst case scenario, we're gonna just use our hero power to summon a 1/1. So that's the rationale there. Definitely taking Hunter. Wisp is bad. Oracle's bad. This at least gives us some flood the board with. Argent Protector. Fuck. So these are actually both great cards. We're probably going to have to take Argent Protector because it's a creature and it gives us Divine Shield. Blessing of Wisdom is amazing though, especially given my lack of draw power. Essentially, if the enemy were to play something big, you can essentially play Blessing of Wisdom on it. Like if they play a Venture Co., I could play Blessing of Wisdom on that. And if he wants to hit me for 7, go ahead. He's going to draw me a card every time. Over time, that could end up killing me, but it could basically give me enough cards to come back. But Argent Protector is too good to pick up. I just wish I had these 2 choices somewhere else because I would want both of them. So Argent Protector is really too good. Amazing, we get a Consecrate. Again, we're going really mid-game heavy, but Consecrate, basically if they flood the board, we can drop Consecrate on them and basically erase all of their early game aggression. And if they've had some early game aggression, done some damage to us, we've got 2 Guardian Kings to heal us up 12. So, perfect. So at this point, because of our curve so far, as much as I value Silverhand Knight, I feel like we need to pick up the Rifleman. It does give us some removal. It can be possibly a 3/3. We've only got one pick after this. So turn 2, we really have next to nothing. We're probably going to... We really don't have many 3s either. We've got a ton of 4s. I feel like if we play Silverhand Knight... Yeah, I think we have Silverhand Knight to... But I think turn 3 is good. We probably wouldn't play... We could play Mind Control Tech. We might. Alright, we'll do it. There is so much more value in Silverhand. That is right. Okay, that's fair. I mean, I just try to fix the curve, but we can't really do it. Oh, wow, these are brutal. Again, I would never play Arcane Golem on turn 3. It is nice to have a charge, though. So looking at the deck, we didn't get a Kings, we didn't get a Might, we did get a Consecration. We got 3 weapons, so that's really strong. I think Blessed Champion is really poor. Blessed Champion could win you the game, though. Possibly. It's very expensive, though. I think we have to go Arcane Golem and just not play it until late game. Once you do have late game, it doesn't matter. It becomes a 4/2 for only 3. And it's a 4 charger for 3 mana, so... I can't ever justify Blessed Champion. The only time I could ever justify is if maybe you get Venture Co out, you hit for 14. But yeah, that's what I agree. I agree Golem is late game. So I wish we had some more draw power, though. I would love to have some kind of draw card or something. Well, the other thing you can actually look at too is saying, how many creatures do I actually have with more attack than 4? Because essentially doubling a minion's attack, if it's 4, it's equal because this is also 4. So, I mean, there's only a few cards down at the very bottom that would be doubled. That would be more than 4. Although hitting for 10 could end the game. They leave that up. Hitting for 9, you know, if you can hit for 10, you can hit for 9. So we'll pick it. We'll see. So remember that choice. We had Arcane Golem. We'll have to remember when this card comes up if Blessed Champion would have been better. I'm betting it won't be, but